Nice day on a Friday, right? I mean, good morning to you. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion. Yesterday, we had a market that actually was pretty interesting to start off and some light selling early on. And then that turned into a nice big run to the upside. As a matter of fact, we recaptured 30,000 for the Dow, at least at one point in time during the session. And you look over at the NASDAQ, that nice move up to that middle part of the 12,000s. This has been an absolute tear to the upside. Now, people continue to talk about rotation and all the value versus growth and everything. I think the reality is the Nasdaq has kept up very, very well, and it's a combination of a lot of things. It's not just the technology side; it's been the semiconductor side, but also biotech, and that continues to play out day in and day out. And we've been watching that as it's played out for a while now. But also, when you're looking over at the Dow, it seems like we've had multiple days now where there's been almost single stock leadership, either to the upside or the downside, but that's something that's been a little bit more unique as well. So that's something that we'll keep an eye on. But yesterday, as a matter of fact, Boeing was the standout. There's no doubt about that. Boeing with a really nice move, power move to the upside. And we talked about that one on a couple of different occasions this week. We've had some unusual option activity in there. The first being when the stock was trading about 218 bucks a share. It went all the way up to 240. Big, powerful move yesterday, 6% move to the upside. Walgreens Boots as well also had a pretty nice move to the upside, up about 7%. So some of those names that were given up for dead in this particular case, Walgreens, and we talked about this name, we talked about the idea, and this was something that was on the webinar the other day. We talked about the idea of when Amazon goes into a field, do they take over? And everybody always seems to have this preconceived notion that absolutely they own everything, and they really don't. Amazon does a great job, and they create everybody else into a position that they've got to get better, obviously. But Walgreens has come back almost as faster than it actually went down. It was an amazing turnaround for that stock as it got hit early on because of the news of and quite honestly CVS. But Walgreens, for whatever reason, that one stood out a little bit more for me. As a matter of fact, if you haven't been following along, that was a stock that I was waiting for the opportunity, and I actually bought it recently, and I'll be selling calls against this position probably for a long time, because if you take a look at that chart, you can see what I'm talking about in terms of where this stock is relative to the past, and when you continue to see the strength of the company itself, and obviously it's a global company, so it's something that I think is well worth keeping an eye on. Energy remains strong, and this is not new. It didn't just start in the last couple of days, couple of weeks. This has been going on for a while now, where we've had energy, and we've talked about those beta names and that big move to the upside. Well, energy again was moving to the upside yesterday. As a matter of fact, obviously the focus yesterday started to turn towards vaccines once again. And the reason I say that is the great performance we had yesterday out of the airlines, out of the cruise ships, all of those various names that we talk about each and every day, Norwegian Cruise Line and Carnival Cruise and American and United and Delta, and the amount of option activity. Matter of fact, let me give you a little bit of that. So the volatility yesterday, we're trading right around 21. We had another huge day in volume, 36 million, actually over 36 million contracts trading yesterday. So a very busy day once again, although these busy days are actually becoming just the average days. That's how consistent we have been, over 30 million contracts per day. And that's been something we've been talking about it all through 2020, but specifically the month of November on this big run and this big historic run from November. And now that we've gotten into December, we've seen these volumes that have been sustained at this very high level. By the way, yesterday, Tesla was the leader, traded about 1.26 million contracts yesterday, Apple 1.23 million. But number three, it wasn't one of the usual names. It was American Airlines, and that was actually almost a million contracts yesterday. 967,000 contracts trading in American Airlines yesterday. It gives you a little bit of an idea. We had a lot of unusual option activity in a lot of different airlines yesterday, but certainly that one did stand out, and that was some monster numbers. As a matter of fact, today we're seeing more follow-up monster numbers in the airlines, and in specifically American Airlines. So that's something that continues to be playing out before us. We did sell off in the final 30 minutes or so yesterday, and matter of fact, markets were up, call it 150, 160 points to the upside. The final 30 minutes or so, we actually only finished up about 85 points. NASDAQ finished up about 27 points, so still positive territory, but did see a little bit of a pullback there. So today we started off strong, up about 100 points in the pre, up about 100 points when we got to the opening, and then we started to run a little bit further, and now we're up about 125 points or so, at least last I looked, that's where we were trading. And so a nice move for the Dow again. And what's really propelling that this time again? Well, it's the industrials. So you've got industrials at one spot where you've got the Dow and you've got Honeywell and names like that are moving to the upside. Also throw in energy, because Chevron and all the energy, whether you were looking at the beta names or you're looking at the big integrated names, they have been absolutely on fire to the upside. And we have seen more and more option paper. It used to be just in the beta names. Now we're starting to see more of it. We're seeing it in Chevron. We've seen it in ExxonMobil. We've seen it in BP. So we've seen a lot of various of the big integrated names starting to participate in terms of the options activity as well. Financials, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan financials up about 1% today. So a nice participation. That's part of what's fueling the Dow, at least early on. The NASDAQ was lagging early. And now once we get into about the first hour, we started to have a really nice move again from the semiconductors. Take a look at what's happening with Micron. Now, this is a name that we've highlighted time and time again with unusual option activity, and they continue to roll. And this is something that Ryan Mastro from Market Rebellion, that's something we were talking about the other day, and we were talking about the consistency. What are you looking for in unusual option activity? Well, this plays right into that, because Micron Technology and AMD have hit on multiple occasions over the last week, 2 weeks or so. As a matter of fact, they just keep on buying large blocks of options, particularly in Micron of late, and they can just continue to go up, and they're going a little bit further out in time. So that's something that's sort of playing out really, really nicely. As a matter of fact, that move that you're seeing in Micron today, that's part of the reason that you're seeing the SMH hit another new high. So Broadcom, Intel pushing up towards 52. This is a name left for dead, trading in the mid 40s not too terribly long ago. Lam Research. So a lot of different areas, Applied Materials. When we look at the semiconductor area, that continues to be very, very powerful, and that's definitely helping out the NASDAQ today. So you've got DocuSign, you've got Broadcom, you've got Intel, you've got all of these, those types of names. A little bit of a break right now from Moderna after a bunch of days, back to back days, where it had been absolutely flying to the upside. A little bit of a pullback today. So that's one of the little bit of slight drag in terms of the biotech side of the NASDAQ. Now, we're going to give you one unusual option activity. I'll try to answer a couple of questions. I got a great surprise for you for where I'm going to be doing the halftime report today. Should be pretty fun. But the first unusual and only unusual that I've got for you guys right now is going to stay in the energy spot. And ConocoPhillips, this is a name that we don't talk about quite as much as some of the other names, but oftentimes we've seen unusual, and I've been in this name on multiple occasions over the last few months. I'm not in it just yet, because I had just seen this options just as I was coming on to do this live broadcast, but a buyer of 10,000 of the January 44 calls in ConocoPhillips. Now, what makes that interesting and what makes me excited about a trade like this is somebody is taking off the profitable side, because as I said, this isn't just something new. And, you know, I hear stuff on CNBC sometimes where people are saying, well, you know, it's just starting to show that we're having a broad, that's not true. That is just plain not true. We've seen this happening for a while now. Take a look at the XLF, where it was a month ago, where XLE was a month ago, where some of these other areas that had not been participating, the materials, where they were about a month ago. And we've had participation now, more and more of this broad participation. And not too terribly long ago, they were buying the D36 calls in ConocoPhillips, and those are getting rolled out. So they're taking their profits, taking that, leaving that stock traded about 42.80 when they were buying these January 44 calls. So they're just a little bit out of the money calls, and you've got a whole month, a little bit more than a month actually, for these to play out, because we're just in the early part of December. Now, let's take a quick look and see. All right, what do you think about Marvell after earnings? And a great question. I knew I'd be getting these kind of questions about that stock, because people have some concerns. The stock made a really nice move, powerful move to the upside after they made the acquisition. It sold off. Then it started to rally back up and move to the upside. Now, as we watch that happen, a lot of people are saying, well, what do you think? I still like the stock. I still like what the CEO is doing. I love the acquisition strategy that they've got, but they had some issues in terms of they had the demand. They just couldn't address the demand. So to me, that's a good problem to have. They've got to address it, and they've got to be able to deliver, but it's still a good problem to have, is more demand than you can actually give. And that's the capacity levels that they were at. And so that's part of the reason that they actually did the most recent acquisition as well. So I still do like this name. I see somebody asking something about Penn, just a couple of question marks. I was just in this name. I actually just got out of this name not too terribly long ago, this week, earlier in this week. Not for any negative reasons, but the stock had performed unbelievably rapid after some unusual option activity and some very large call buying that we had had. And so because of that, I decided to exit that one. That's a name where I trade the options only, but I trade the stock in DraftKings. So that's the difference there. And it's I like trading the stock in DraftKings. And part of the reason, if you're wondering, is I like to see the options themselves have implied volatilities that are extremely high. And because they are, it gives me a great opportunity to sell upside calls, maybe 5% out of the money calls to the upside, where I can take in a pretty nice premium. So that's exactly what I'm usually looking for. And that's why I target that one as one of those stocks that I want to own, because I can create my own dividend stream along the way in that name. So what else do we have here? What do you think about the natural gas prices at this time? You know, I watch it, but not as close as I probably should. I keep a little bit closer eye on the price of crude, just because it seems to have some more impact overall on the energy space. So that's my answer there. I do own a couple of those names, though, Kinder Morgan being one of those names. So interesting. Let's see. I'll give you one last one. So I see Eric is asking about Riot. We have seen Riot option paper so many times in a short period of time. It's absolutely been extraordinary. I bought some calls just the other day because of the unusual option activity that we were seeing in Riot. So is it something that I'm absolutely in love with? I'm going to hold for a long time? Nope. This is a trade for me. Absolute trade. But I love what I'm seeing. The options in there can just continue to come in and buy to the upside. And that's been a really unbelievable performance of that stock of late. CX, please, some guy real quick. So Ace, I'm going to give it to you real quick and then I got to go. So look for me at halftime today. CX, I already trimmed. I bought it just earlier in the week. I've already trimmed some of the options, but I'm still holding on because as you guys all know here, I love what I call the rock stocks. The rock stocks are all those names in the material space and across the board. And I think that's an area where we've not only seen acceleration of call buying in there, but I do think that there is so much more upside potential there. And if you're a big believer in the industrials, and you're a big believer in what's going to be going on in 2021 in terms of why you're buying some of these industrial names, I think that's another reason why you should probably be concentrating a little bit, at least, on some of these, as I call them, the rock stocks. All right, guys, have a great day. Really enjoy yourselves. I'm just right over there by the stadium itself, going to be broadcasting from the stadium somewhere. I'm not sure if we're going to be in the press box or in one of the boxes up there, but it's one of those looking out over the field. So hopefully it should be a really fun backdrop for today while we're on the halftime report. And I'll have obviously a couple of unusuals on the halftime report today as well. Folks, have a great day of trading. Have a great weekend.